Hey guys, welcome to another video. My name is Ian. Welcome back to the channel, Ian the Reader. Today, I want to talk to you guys about one of my absolute favorite writers, that being Nat Cassidy, the author of Mary, The Awakening of Terror, Nestlings, and the brand new release, Rest Stop, a novella that comes out this week. I love Nat Cassidy's books so much. They are some of the most gripping, chilling, enticing horror books to me. Anytime I hear about a new release coming out from this guy, I immediately try to get my hands on it, whatever it takes. I love Nat Cassidy's books, and today I wanted to do some mini reviews of all three of his books in honor of the release of his brand new novella, Rest Stop, which again comes out this week. It is the perfect read for Halloween, you guys. Halloween is just a couple weeks away, so this is the perfect length to just squeeze in there right before the spooky day. It's perfect. It's great. Go pick up a copy of that book. I'll leave a link down below, but like I said today, I wanted to give you my thoughts on all three of his books that I've read. So let's go ahead and start off with his debut horror novel. So I believe he actually did have a book that he wrote before this book, but it's kind of in tandem with a podcast or something like that. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't been able to get my hands on that copy yet. However, this is his debut horror novel, that being Mary, The Awakening of Terror. So I do have a full comparative review with this book and another book, which we'll get to in just a second. I will leave that link down below if you want more in-depth thoughts on Mary in general, but I love this book. Now, the book that I compared it to in that other video is Carrie by Stephen King, and that's because the idea for this book came to Nat Cassidy as, okay, what would happen if Carrie was an adult? You know, if the character of Carrie in the Stephen King novel grew up and now she's in her middle age years and she doesn't have powers, but kind of the basic character of Mary, what would her life look like now as a middle-aged woman? And it goes into that. It's a very focused narrative because it's first person. We get a very intense look into Mary's thought process, and it's Mary, not Carrie, you see. But yeah, she's middle-aged at this point. She's kind of entering into a new stage of life, and she feels very much alone and isolated. She's been working at this bookstore for a very long time, but things kind of shift in her life, and she ends up having to go back home to her hometown where she had a very, very complicated relationship that she now kind of has to deal with. But in addition to that, there's some serial killer stuff going on both in the past and the present, and she starts seeing some really horrifying visions every time she looks in the mirror, and it is so chilling. What I love so much about this book, Mary, and it's interesting because originally when I reviewed this, I think I gave it a 4 or a 4.5, but this book is so memorable, and the reason I think I was slightly put off when I first read it was this intense focus on Mary's perspective. But it's weird because that's the thing that I admire most about it in hindsight, because you truly just get this full picture of this woman's mental state and everything she's going through. It is overwhelming at times, but it's so immersive and, like I said, quite chilling. Additionally, this book is a bit longer than Carrie. I don't want to say it's like twice as long, but it is a longer horror book, maybe 400 pages. But I will say the first-person narrative style and everything that goes on with Mary as a character keeps this book moving, and it also went in some really crazy directions that I absolutely did not see coming. There's some pretty twisted body horror in this book, so if that is something that puts you off, you may want to just be careful of it, but I think that it is a really important story and a really amazing story, and it's one that immediately sold me on Nat Cassidy's books. But now let's go ahead and move on to Nestlings, the second full-length novel that Nat Cassidy published. This came out on Halloween Day last year, but I read an early copy of it that September because, again, after reading Mary, I was so curious to see what Nat Cassidy was going to do next. Oh my gosh. I had high expectations for this book because I enjoyed Mary so much, but this book blew me away. It was so amazing. It was the best horror book that I read last year, and I read some really amazing ones, and it's one that made my year-end list of my top 10, so it's that good, you guys. This is one of my favorite horror novels, and it's what really solidified Nat Cassidy as an auto-buy author for me. I love Nestlings. This book follows a married couple and their baby as they move into this nice luxury apartment, which is kind of a staple of New York City in the book. I don't think it actually exists, obviously, but it's a staple there. It's this big, like, amazingly architecturally grand apartment building that is very historic, but has kind of a dark past as well, with a lot of secrets that are kind of hard to unearth. They wouldn't normally be able to afford this place, but they won a lottery, so they get to move into this apartment, and it looks beautiful, but there's something definitely off about it. There's also a lot of complicated things going on with this married couple. First of all, they're brand new parents, which on its own would be straining on a relationship, but additionally, due to some complications with the labor process, Anna, the woman in this relationship, has become unfortunately unable to use her legs. She suffered some trauma physically throughout that experience, and so she now has that disability that she is navigating. That puts a lot of challenges on her, not only as a mother, because she has to take care of her baby while dealing with these physical changes, but also as a person and as a woman. Now she has this change in her body that really changes the way that she operates, not only as a mother and a wife, but as a person. And so that was a really, really fascinating dynamic to throw into this horror novel, and it's one that truly added some layers to the interactions she had with her husband, as well as her baby, as well as the other tenants, and everything else that goes on. This just adds a different angle to it that I absolutely adored, and it was a very bold choice for a horror novel. Totally paid off, though. This book is described as Rosemary's Baby meets something else. I don't want to tell you what it is because I personally feel like it's a little bit spoilery, just because what's going on isn't really delved into until about the halfway point, but the comparisons that are made with this book kind of spoil that. So I'll say it's one part Rosemary's Baby and one part a very famous horror story that I won't tell you what it is, but just know it's perfect. This book is one of the best horror books I've ever read. I loved it from the prologue, or I don't know if it's a prologue, or if maybe it's just a very short first chapter. From the get-go, basically, you know what you're in for, in that it is going to be weird, it is going to be dark, it is going to be messed up, and it's going to have moments that are going to make you just revolt inside because of how uncomfortable it makes you. And that is a high compliment. Like, I know that might not sound appealing to some people, but if you like horror, that's high praise. It really is. This book had me on the edge of my seat from start to finish. It was so incredibly well paced. I found every moment of it to be so engaging. The reveals were crazy. The intensity was insane. And I was truly just unnerved at some moments in this book, and it is what truly solidified, like I said, Nat Cassidy as an author that I will read anything that he writes. Which leads me to Rest Stop, which again is the brand new novella that comes out this week from Nat Cassidy. I was really curious about this one because it's definitely a little bit different than his other horror works that he's put out that I've read. With Mary, we have a very focused narrative of this one character that we follow for a pretty good amount of time as she goes on this like longer journey, and with Nestlings, we follow a few different characters in kind of a similar situation. This story is a novella that follows a young man as he takes a road trip to visit a dying family member. He is driving through the night and decides to take a short rest stop at a gas station just to get some snacks, use the restroom, fuel up, and get out of there. But he goes inside and gets locked in the bathroom. I read in a review somewhere that this book does for gas station restrooms what Jaws did for beaches, and I 100% agree. I don't feel like, I haven't gone inside a gas station since reading this book. I don't feel like I can ever use a gas station bathroom again. Maybe, but certainly not anytime soon, because this book just had me on the edge of my seat, and it was one that truly felt like I had absolutely no idea what was going to happen next. From the moment he gets locked in that bathroom to the end of this story, it felt like anything could happen. And Nat Cassidy truly does run with that. And it was jarring, intense, bloody, crazy, fantastic, so entertaining. One thing I will say that I find really interesting about this book, and about his other characters as well, but the main character of this one, it almost like, I don't know how much of Nat he put into this character, like how much of himself he put into it, but the main character of Rest Stop in particular just felt like a guy that I know. Like the way that he went throughout the story, I mean, he spends pretty much all of it, or at least most of it, in isolation with himself, kind of dealing with the things that are happening. And so we get his inner thoughts, we get his monologue to himself as things are happening around him. He talks to himself, and it just felt like it was some guy who is like maybe your friend who's in a band that you know, as he's going through this absolute absolutely crazy stuff. It was darkly humorous at times, very entertaining, and it was just honest. Like, I felt like it was this guy who, like, is in this crazy situation, and yes, he's scared, but he's also just trying to cope and rationalize with these crazy things that are happening around him. I thought it was really authentic, and I think it added something to the story of this just not being some guy who is just, like, scared and screaming all the time, but you get more of his interaction with you, the reader, as he's talking to himself, if that makes sense. I really enjoyed it. Honestly, I think Rest Stop is a perfect horror novella. I think it does some really exciting and scary things. Like, it really does. There are some moments of this that sent chills down my spine. Like, it was dark, but I really enjoyed that. So if you're somebody who can handle a horror story that has some blood in it, there's some blood, sorry, then pick this up, because it is snappy, it is fast-paced, it is unpredictable, it is wild, and it is just another reason why Nat Cassidy is an amazing author. He's an author that I will always recommend, and I want you to read. So if you're watching this and you like horror books, go pick up a Nat Cassidy book. Go pick up Rest Stop. Like I said, it's out now. Thank you so much to Nat Cassidy and the publisher for letting me read an early copy of this book. I had such a great time with it, and I think you will too. Yeah, go read it. Go read Nestlings, go read Mary, go read Rest Stop, go read anything he writes. He has another book coming out next year called, I think, When the Wolves Come Home or something like that. I'll put the cover here, but I'm very, very excited about this. Nat, if you're watching this, hook me up, man. I'll review it. Thank you guys so much for watching, though. I hope you enjoyed. Leave me a comment down below letting me know which of these sounds the most interesting to you. Read them, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.